There really is nothing better than that. She is as beautiful of a person as she is a flautist or flutist. That is your host, Delayed Dale.
Thank you, Henry. And that's Henry K., a Broadway star trapped in a corporate reality.
A corporate nightmare is more like it. And this is Easy Mode, the gaming podcast. Dale, you don't know how much that meant to me. I really appreciate you playing for me. I love that. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I did cut it short right before the because the mic wasn't going to pick it up, and I wanted you guys to, kind of
save your ears. Well, do you want to tell everyone why you were playing Zelda's Lullaby today on today's show?
I'm already about to cry. The whole episode is about video game soundtracks, musics, all of that. I'm super excited. Something that Henry and I are both super passionate about. Like, truly, this episode is our childhood. So many memories, not only for us, but for all of the listeners. Music is something that's been with us our whole lives. And we're going to talk about so many things, so many impacts. There's fun facts. There are fun facts in this episode. And there are
references to songs and emotions and feelings. Music shapes who we are, and it shapes our experiences. And it even is like, I would say, like markers for periods in our lives. Songs can be markers and really like reminders of experiences and like moments. And that
I will say though, the episode is already good because I started off by playing the flute.
That's going to be a moment I remember. And hopefully the listeners will too. But should we just get started and start diving into this episode, Dale? I'm freaking stoked.
Let's play.
Let's melody in.
That could have been executed better. Let's
tune in to this week's episode.
Let's tune in.
Good one. That was great.
We got there. We finally got there. What music resonates with you? What memories does it invoke? Pain? Love? Triumph? Let's talk about what makes music so powerful. Henry, what to you makes music so powerful? What give me your definition.
I'm a big music person. I've done choir since I could in 4th grade, and they finally let me do it. I sang in church. I went to school for musical theater. I did choir in college. I love music, and I think it's just such a big form of storytelling, and that's who I am sort of as an artist. That is like the venue of which I choose to be and exist in. That's what I connect with. And I think music is that. It's just an amazing method and form to do it. And it tells a story. And whether that story is those things you said, pain, love, triumph, it can be all of them. And I think that's what makes it so great. It makes you feel.
I love what you just said. I did a definition search because you know me, my data, but I'll read to you what I wrote and everything that you hit. Music, what makes music so powerful? It's universal. Yeah. Infinite perspectives. Celebration. Providing meaning. Engages our emotions. It also regulates our emotions. We all just want to feel something, and that was me being edgy. The key to creativity. Also celebrates our differences and unites us. Like, music is so powerful. It's just something that everyone can enjoy. Yes. Well,
all those things are right, but especially the universal language of music is probably one of the most amazing things
music
about it.
Music is universal language.
You can feel something with a sound, and there doesn't have to be a language. I mean, there can be like cultural inferences that maybe we don't understand or connect with, or things that have to do with like tradition and regional things, but for the most part, even sometimes it can supersede that. So.
So we talked about what makes music so powerful, but what makes video game music so powerful? So let me just give you a little backstory here. So video game music is specifically designed to motivate players while staying in that background, sets the mood and the tone of the game, keeps up a good rhythm, and never distracts the game objectives. Can I speak? I feel like I just had an aneurysm, like that last part of the sentence. Every episode, I always mess up the last 5 words. So they actually say that if you're studying, you should listen to like music from video games when you need music. You need to focus because the genre is designed to simultaneously stimulate your senses like 5-Gum and blade.
I didn't know 5-Gum was our sponsor, Dale.
sponsor. So it like bleeds into the background of your in your brain. So music has that ability, especially video game music, which is actually so cool. When I was studying in university, well, before I realized that I couldn't study with music, I would really listen to video game music. Some notable favorites of mine was, try to listen to some really like the Elden Rings, the Skyrim soundtrack, Scrolls. Because it just felt so powerful. And I'm like, I got to get through this chapter. I got to get through this course, and it just made me feel so good. And then I got too distracted in the music and I got nothing.
You're
done.
like Fusrodawing your way through like your science textbook.
That was my fault. Also, to everyone who listened to that section, I apologize that I can't read a sentence. Okay. I can do math. I can't read words. So Henry, I love video game music. I know you have a little bit to tell us before I jump into these composers, which I'm so excited to talk
I mean, I just want to say that.
Yeah, have your moment.
I just think there are so many ways that music exists in video games. It could be like a theme song. It could be like a backdrop to like a new landscape you've just like landed or explored to, and it sets the tone for that landscape. Like I think the Hyrule Field song in Ocarina of Time is a great example of that.
Oh my God.
It can be like the orchestration and the arc to like an amazing battle. It can be like the score to like a dramatic ending or a joyful reunion. Like it exists in many frames and in many aspects in video games. And I think no aspect of a game would be fully complete necessarily without it.
Before we get on to me talking about composers, did you hear about the controversy around video game music? So there are people, and these people I just don't understand. They don't believe video game music is actually music because it's not music that could be enjoyed on its own. So you found the music by playing a game. You didn't find the music like by itself. So there are people out there who believe that video game music is not actually music. Which to that I say, have you ever listened to the Legend of Zelda soundtrack? Tell me you don't listen to that and feel something. Squeeze.
I mean, do they not think like movie music is music? Do they not think like there's a lot of things that they would fall into the same category in a commercial?
Yeah. Maybe it's just like the hatred of games, like we always talk about like how games are so poorly, and video games especially, portrayed so negatively in the media. Like, and they're just like clinging onto something, or maybe they're just like really spiteful, and maybe they have some problems. But yeah, that's the controversy.
Give me the names after the show, and I'm gonna find these people. I'll convince them otherwise.
There's that laugh again. Okay. All right, Henry, I'm going to talk about some absolutely iconic who have made staples in the gaming world, in the soundtrack world. It's just like everything.
I don't know any
I'm getting goosebumps
like major gaming composers besides like when outside of gaming industry composers jump in. So please tell me. I would love to know. So
the first one is Nobuo Uematsu. He had no musical training at all. He taught himself how to play. No,
I can
he didn't
do
have
it,
any.
Ben.
He taught himself to play the piano, everything.
Never mind.
And he's just, you're not self-taught?
No.
You can't self-taught?
We can stop that.
No,
my music journey right there.
So he came from nothing. You know how people like work their whole life to succeed? He's like, nah, babes, I got natural talent. And he went on to freaking just like do amazing things. Most notable soundtracks. Also, he has a huge repertoire. I was scrolling. I was simply scrolling for at least 15 seconds. Okay, that's quite a lot. So Final Fantasy.
Wow.
And I put in my personal favorite by him, the Super Smash Bros. Brawl main theme. Da, 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 da.
Yes, that was so good.
That was so good. Oh, da, da, da. Yes.
Like singing like some sort of choir.
Yeah.
How cool.
Who was your main?
Princess Peach. Yeah.
Was it Peach?
Go back to episode 1.
Episode Peach? Okay. Episode 1 was your main. That's right. The next one is Jeremy Soule. And he enjoyed video games and dreamed of ways to make the music more engaging. So this is an individual who's like opposite to Nobuo in the sense that he was working hard to like strive to achieve something. And he did it. He did it. His most notable work is the Elder Scrolls series, Skyrim. So when I was studying quotations because I can't study unless it's white noise. He wrote that. He absolutely wrote that. So I love that because you and I love Skyrim. We have so many memories with Skyrim and just like the music and the atmosphere, especially with those kind of games when you're doing like open world or like RPG, the music is what makes it. It's also like part of like the role play. So Jeremy, you done good. We freaking stan.
Well,
okay,
I think the Skyrim music and the Elder Scrolls series, when I think of that from my perspective, it fits in so seamlessly that it's just, to me, part of the whole experience. Like, I can't say like currently I remember individual songs or individual themes or individual things happening, because that score and that music, I think, in my brain just went into the entire experience of playing the game. Like, as sort of like a different take on how those things fit, and it like contribute to the whole in this like seamless way where you're not like, oh, this song is incredible, like in the back, like that I'm hearing because it's sticking out. It like fits in as a perfect puzzle.
It immerses you. You know, I get it.
I get it too. And he got it.
And
good job, Jeremy.
He got it. Jeremy, you freaking got it. And finally, I've got chills already. Koji Kondo, I friggin' love you. He has worked with Nintendo since 1984, and he still does. So titles like Zelda, Mario, the classics. If you played Nintendo, he most likely wrote the score. He stated that video games were the only medium where he could truly get the sounds and arrangements he enjoyed working with.
I love that.
And the fact that his music is just so popular, it's made such a huge impact. Like, the fact that Legend of Zelda, like the Ocarina of Time, that slapped so hard. Because whenever I listen to like the top, music from like the biggest video games, Zelda's always on there multiple times. He done did that. Koji, oh my God, you are just an icon and a legend. Like,
fun fact for you about
continue
about Koji Kondo, because so the Ocarina of Time soundtrack, and this because I'm such a fan of Ocarina of Time, they were like one of the first games to use like a style of like music arrangement typically known with hip hop, and that's like sampling and like shifting. So Ocarina of Time is one of the first games where that's really done, and sort of like in mainstream gaming. So he would take samples from different CDs, samples from different orchestrations, choral singing, a lot of various things, and really combine them using techniques like clip them, combine them, and like create the soundtrack to Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and like use effects like pitch shifting and sort of create these amazing orchestrations. There was some controversy around Zelda Ocarina of Time using some traditional Islamic chanting and songs in the Fire Temple. That was later removed from the game, but that sort of is an example of how he used sampling from various things he would find to create this iconic soundtrack that we know today. And that's, sort of something that started in hip hop, but has now like influenced gaming, and Koji Kondo did it himself. And, we still have those samples and themes in like those original samples in the newer Zelda games that we still play today.
Just going back to that controversy, he did not realize what he had sampled until afterwards. So when he found out, he immediately, like, they withdrew those copies. They released the thing. So they were like very diligent because they don't want to obviously offend anybody or, cause any disrespect. So that's great. I do have the original, and I will say, when I heard the chants, I was freaked out. Like, that Fire Temple was very scary for me.
Ocarina of Time, the fear factor was up on some of those sounds and songs.
It was. When the night came down, you'd have a shield, and it was like,
the house in Kakariko Village, like where the spiders lived. Oh, hated going in there. Oh, the graveyard.
Oh, it was everything.
Past the windmill.
Oh, don't even get me started. When you first, after the time shift, and you have to like leave the inside of the castle, and then it's like, and then you know what? Let's continue. I'm having a bit of like so good.
But to the note on the success and the impact of gaming soundtracks, but we're well aware that there are full orchestral tours around the country of nothing but gaming soundtracks. So these orchestras and these arrangers and composers come together and like rearrange the music from these games. Of course, being very true traditional, but creating an experience based around gaming music and the music from specific franchises. And just go on tour and play at some of the biggest music venues around the United States, Canada, I'm sure other countries as well.
Yeah. Very popular. They came to my city and I couldn't go, but they sold out so fast because people who love gaming, they know those local titles, and
I think if I win, I would just cry. I couldn't go.
Yeah,
to
we were
the
talking
Legend
about
of
this
Zelda
before we
one.
recorded, and we said if you and I had gone together, we would have said like hold it together. But we
I would
both
have
been
cried just
sobbing.
hearing every song live in person by an orchestra.
Every
And
song,
orchestras
like
are
literally
amazing.
just like the first note. I
Yeah,
already have the
we're both big
goosebumps.
music
Don't get me
fans, which is
started.
something I don't think we talk
We
about.
are huge
But,
music fans.
like
We don't
music
talk about
as
this
in
enough.
like the art of music. Yeah, you
the
play the
art
flute.
of music, not just like
The flute,
the
as we
flute?
heard, and then
I do play
did
the
choral
flute.
stuff.
Yes.
So big music fans here. But back on point, some of the like shows that were toured were the music of Final Fantasy, the music of Pokemon, Assassin's Creed was one too. Final Fantasy actually had a few tours, but I mean, as I mentioned, the Legend of Zelda tours would have been the ones to go to for me. They did music from Link to the Past, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, which when writing this, I mean, I'm aware of it obviously now, but I never thought about how music is actually like a very playable part of a lot of the Zelda games. Like Wind Waker, you have a conducting element. Ocarina of Time, Ocarina is an instrument. Like that is just like the title.
Yeah.
But there's also but there's a lot of music elements across the Zelda franchise and like instruments, weapons, like it's all.
You could also make your own songs if you went to the Scarecrow. Like you could have your own creativity. Like it was so
music was
cool.
everywhere in the Zelda franchise.
Again, friggin' thank you so much, Koji. Like you changed
it
my
really
life
did
for the
impact our
better.
lives, which is so cool to
You
think
really
about.
did so much nostalgia. If you ever hear this,
love
just know we
you.
love you. EasyMode would love to have you
Please,
on the show.
do we have to learn Japanese? Okay, we'll figure it out that later. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, well, just to let you know a little bit about video game music, video game industry, video game history, is that video game soundtracks have actually been very, very popular since the 1980s. Especially in Japan, the vinyl scene had a big, booming sort of gaming soundtrack scene, which makes sense.
Oh, I didn't know about the whole vinyl
isn't that
thing.
cool?
That's
1980s, like gaming music is popular. It was being sold since then. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
Of course, very physical. So very different experience than what we're used to today.
Physical 80s. Okay.
Yeah, in researching this episode in an article, there's this website called NME, the letters NME. I'll link it in the details for the show. There is a columnist named Matt Ombler. He has a special sort of bi-monthly articles he posts. It's called Rock the Spacebar. It's a column where he investigates and goes into the great music that underpins our favorite games. I would definitely check that out because I got a lot of great research from that, but also he had a lot more articles that I wanted to read that I couldn't fit in. But speaking of like companies in Japan and like companies like Nintendo and Konami, they had actually some really fun and wild sort of weird releases of music because music of gaming was just so popular. One of the first ones was, especially Nintendo, which is very wild to me to see today, was big on their music and big on releasing it. But they also did like adaptations of their albums. So at the time, like from in-house, like sort of bands and songs and music, like in-house sort of releases, they had they released the Captain Falcon. Well, it's called F-Zero, but the game Captain Falcon from Super Smash Brothers, where he's from. They released a heavy metal guitar arrangement of one of the soundtracks. I listened to that, and that was a blast. It's actually really, really good. But then they also released a jazz funk adaptation of that of another F-Zero whole soundtrack. They did a whole album. Yeah, they did 2 whole albums.
So they did the Henry and the Dale. Because you know me, I do love.
Okay, I was gonna say
funk.
I don't know if I'm jazz funk, but yeah, heavy metal would be on my
You're
end.
definitely the heavy metal guitar.
But yes, they did that, and even Konami. This one actually really made me laugh because I love the intention, but the execution doesn't always work. But these are, I'm going to link these as well. They'll be in the article that I link. But they released, because you can listen to them all together there, I'm going to say very interesting hip hop version of the Castlevania soundtrack.
What?
I know.
I need to hear this. I need to hear this after the show. Because
I know.
what?
It's very weird, but like.
Did it slap? What? How many like slaps out of 10 would you give it?
I would probably just give it a slap if I'm being honest. But like the intention was there. But like when you think of like a country where hip hop isn't prevalent doing hip hop at that time, you probably know what you're going to get based on that sentence. But I'm going to link them. They're good. They're very fun to listen to. I actually jammed out to the F-Zero heavy metal one a little bit. The guitar, I wouldn't say heavy metal necessarily, more like guitar metalish sound. The songs are intense, and I'm like, yeah, this guitar really like slaps with it. But very, very funny to me, like Nintendo doing that, like back then, and that music being such a big thing, because now it's so Nintendo makes its music and its soundtrack so inaccessible. Just recently, Dale, they hit YouTube soundtrack channels with over like, and a lot of different YouTubers with over like 1,300 copyright blocks. So Nintendo as a company now is really cracking down on how its music is distributed and used across content that isn't theirs. And I did a little research into it, and obviously I feel like I don't know a lot about music law or stuff like that. It's complex.
So tricky now. You know that they're trying to get like music from like way back in the day, like the very, very early stuff, like try to get that copyrighted now too. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I get it that people should get paid, but it's like the composer's like dead for like hundreds of years. How do you copyright that, right?
It's very interesting. So I tried to do a little research on like why Nintendo's doing this and why music from a lot of Japanese countries is like difficult to like attain or listen to or like use in any sort of way. And I learned that has to do like a lot of difference between the United States and Japan. So I'm going to tell you like what little I know. So in the United States, like music copyright law is very different than it is there. We allow like a lot of freedoms for like things like covers. Streaming sometimes has some different rules than it does in a lot of other countries. We're allowed to transform things. As we know, like YouTube copyright law, like if you take something and transform it, technically it's different. So like the owner can't strike you for it. It's something we see often on YouTube. Right. But they don't really have that in Japan set up legally. Mainly, it's something called mechanical licensing, and it sort of like requires like royalties to be paid for like any sort of use and or ownership or like anything like that. So like you really can't use that like at all. Even if you're like sampling, can't do that either. So without like actually like purchasing like a technical license. And the reason that this started was because when player pianos and sort of pianos that like play songs by themselves without like a musician or a score or anything like that came around, the composers of the original sheet music felt like it was unfair that they weren't getting paid for their sheet music not being bought. So that's sort of where those laws stem from. So the only way to get Nintendo music here in the United States necessarily would be by like actually having like a physical copy, like purchasing physical copies from Japan and coming to the US with those physical copies, like technically legally. So that's like
because there's a lot of.
there is a lot online. You know,
legal, but
the internet, nothing's going to be inaccessible on the internet. It's all on there. But a lot of people really want to see this music come online and be preserved in a digital space so that everyone can access it. Because I mean, actually right now they're not on, like you can't listen to that on Spotify. You can't listen to that anywhere. Right. It's not accessible for the fans or appreciators of music anywhere to listen to. So it's kind of sad that doesn't exist to be available.
Why can't I stream it on Spotify? I want it to be streamed
I know, it's very sad to think about. Maybe one day they'll change. Everyone's really pushing them to. So I hope they listen.
They really should.
But in that same vein, in a very reverse way, Square Enix actually has added thousands of its classic songs and tracks from games onto an official Square Enix music channel on YouTube. So you'll be able to access and listen to some amazing Final Fantasy original soundtracks like that, like from old games. So they're really preserving their entire spectrum of digital library online for everyone to listen to and have access to. And like now people who have never heard music from certain games will be able to see it online and sort of have access to something that before was not accessible to them. Yeah, it used to just live on like fan channels and stuff like that, but not anymore.
And that's a fun fact by Henryk.
I mean, it's sort of two sides of the same coin there. And when I read the part about music being preserved and that sort of spectrum, and we chatted a little bit about games that we don't have access to anymore, I actually fear the thought of those things being lost to the wind and never heard again. That idea and concept really scares me, mainly because like games like Nintendo, I mean, these publishers don't necessarily have their full range of content available to play. I mean, Nintendo does release some things on like their online store, like their older stuff, but like it's not everything. So like, how do we preserve this art and music that has influenced and affected people throughout the ages? How do we do that? Because I feel like I could get really behind whatever anyone's idea to do that. I would be super behind, and I'll pledge my support to this preservation of digital gaming music.
I would too. I totally would, because like I want people to experience what we've experienced.
Like, think one day we can't hear the
these
Ocarina of Time music anymore. It'll be gone to the wind.
I don't want to think. No, I will record myself playing it, so I'll always have it.
Actually, I'm gonna go burn a few CDs and then. What else can I do to just preserve it? Like voice memos, some tapes, like of myself singing it, like anything to keep it alive. I'll do my part.
We could. I mean, we could always go to those touring like orchestras.
Yeah, I guess.
Right? We don't even live in the same city.
Maybe they'll do a digital one.
Like, where do we be? Maybe they'll do a digital one. They should. No, they honestly should. That would be
nice.
Great.
I like that. Let's go. Yes.
Henry, please share with me your favorite video game.
I've been waiting for you to ask me this, but also I've been waiting to ask you, so I'm glad you went first. You asked me first.
Okay.
So some of my favorite ones, when you mentioned working and getting things done, I sort of have a go-to for that. And that's like the Animal Crossing, like lo-fi or Animal Crossing inspired music. Or even like the...
Oh, really?
Very funny to say, but even like the... freaking, what's his name? The naked dog? In Animal Crossing. KK Slider.
Oh, KK Slider.
Even like the KK Slider songs, like covers of popular songs, I'm a huge fan of. There's a YouTube channel that does that. Nintendo, don't take them down. But I love like an Animal Crossing sort of like living live sound while I'm doing stuff. That's a good one for me. Yeah. At night, I listen to Stardew Valley. I love it. The Moonlight Jellyfish song puts me right to sleep. Big fan. Yeah, and of course, as we've already said, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, every song, banger, banger, banger. There's no misses on that album. What is a Metacritic?
God,
no, is that what does music? What is the music for rating system for that?
I don't know. I just know Metacritic is just
okay,
movies.
Wrong one.
What's the Metacritic?
Whatever that rating system is for music, 10 out of 10. You beat every album that exists. And then, we haven't talked about it yet, but... real like IRL bangers, like you could have dropped this song not in a game and I would be living. Sonic Adventure 2
I
Battle.
feel like I know what I was about to say. That is the one song from my childhood that I would
first
build.
level, freaking Escape from the City. I mean, there's a lot of amazing songs on there, but Escape from the City, freaking pop punk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rolling around at the speed
of sound. Got nowhere to go, got follow my own. Well, it says Follow My Rainbow, so yay. That show was, I mean, those songs were freaking hits. I want to shout out quickly Toasty Marshmallow. I retweeted on the EasyMode Twitter today. Toasty Marshmallow is a great TikToker and Twitch streamer who does music and covers video game sound music often. And she did that song today. Made my day even better.
Wow.
Yeah. What about you? Tell me yours. I'm like dying to hear. I freaking love this.
Okay. I love this too. I just want everybody to know I think this is my favorite episode.
I was like, I forgot how much I love it.
We made so many good episodes. I know, right? Oh my God. Also, listening to some of these again, or even just like reading them, makes me a little teary-eyed. Okay, so if I start tearing up, it's okay. So obviously, right off the bat, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Iconic, everything. I still like whenever I do anything, I'm like, oh my God. And I just like, okay, am I an NPC right now? No. But then Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, I have like an emotional attachment to that game because it's just it's so good. And that soundtrack,
I wish we could
me feel
play
things.
it in this episode, but we don't want to get sued.
I know. We don't want no. Then I want to talk about, we talked about this back in like the Souls game and then the roguelikes. It's Enter the Gungeon. This is the kind of game where I listen to the soundtrack. The soundtrack's available on Spotify, the whole Enter the Gungeon soundtrack. And it's made by one individual. So good. And every level that he has curated specially.
What's it like?
So good. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know how to explain it to you. It's an experience
what genre?
Like no other. There's fear.
Or would you say?
It's more like there's one where there's chants where he goes don't, and that's obviously not even in rhythm or in like the tune or anything, but like it's so good. And there's fear, there's like heartwarming, there's triumph, there's boss battles. So like doing this, I listen to that when I do my Excel work, and it's like, am I going into battle right now? Probably. Carrying on, one of my absolute favorite games ever, and if anybody has ever played this game, please tweet us because I want to know, have you ever played Professor Layton? Because that is Professor Layton is a game I found on DS when I was younger, and the music, oh my God, I fell in love with the music. Like that game, the art, the music, everything, super nostalgic for me. And then kind of going off of that nostalgia train where, oh my God, even saying this, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, the soundtracks for those, I wanted to be a lawyer so bad when I was listening and playing those
lawyer?
games.
You're always ready to argue, so you'd be great at it.
It's because I'm always ready to fight, not argue. You're the okay. Super Mario Sunshine.
That one was
that is
so
the soundtrack.
good. You're right.
And then finally, one of the ones that I want to, my absolute fave, I want to round it off, Kirby's Dreamland.
What platform? What console's Kirby on?
I don't remember where I played it. I think I might have played it on GameCube. I think it was on GameCube, but it's like.
That's right. I only remember because of Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah,
it is great.
Here are some honorable mentions. Maybe they'll trigger some nostalgia for you and to everyone listening. Bath Time with Nintendogs.
No, wrong, not me.
The title of Brain Age.
No. Well, oh, is that the thinking song that came out for Nintendo 3DS? The thinking game?
Yeah, the thinking game. Yeah.
I really credit that game for my ability to memorize numbers super, super well.
Oh,
I've always had an amazing memory, but I think that one, the one skill I have that I don't doubt is my ability to memorize numbers. And I think it's because of that game.
I love that for you. And finally, a classic. The Wii Sports main theme.
That song's on that's on TikTok. Oh my God, that is the best song.
Truly. So before we lose, everyone listening to us, to our bad singing and pitches, tweet us and tell us your absolute favorite gaming soundtrack. We do want to know, do you agree with this? Is there a game that we missed? There were so many titles that we couldn't completely talk about.
100%. Also, I just want to shout out indie games. You always have amazing soundtracks. Way to freaking go. I don't know how you do it. Also,
you just
games I can always count on to have good soundtracks are 8-bit games or those pixel games. They always knock the soundtracks out of the park for me. Indie games, 8-bit games.
They actually are so good.
Go. We need to give you an episode. We'll come back. We'll come back.
It's welcome back, but also we'll come back.
And we'll welcome you back onto that episode. That's it for everyone. I was just I can't think of anything besides wanting to listen to these freaking soundtracks. That's it for us this week, everyone. Thank you for hanging out on this absolute blast of an episode. We enjoyed it, and we hope you did too. We'll be back with...
I hope you did too.
Yes, we'll be back next week with a new episode of Easy Mode. But until then, keep it easy.
Mode?
Yes, I knew I'd get you to do that soon.
Yeah!